morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my new friend, Leo Treadwell. Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm awesome, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to learn from you. I was introduced to Leo by another friend, Jason, and I am fascinated with your work. I think there isn't anything more important than what you're trying to do with giving people tools and new awarenesses of how they can run their life. So your classes and your philosophy is I am the matrix, which means that we are not a victim of anything. Could you give us a little information about how you got started on this, or what was the impetus for? Well, yeah, I mean, for me, when I started, as I started to tell you before we went on, I did Avatar. I hit my 50th birthday and I realized I had all these different people in my life and that I was creating the same result. So love relationships, I had a similar guy show up. I mean, one go and then the next one come. It's like, what is this? And it was me. It was me. So you must have had something that caused you to realize that you wanted to change too, right?
Yeah, maybe something. Yeah. Yeah. So I was, what was it? I would say part of it is the fact that I'm kind of a relentlessly wild human being to begin with. And then combine that with being raised in a fairly challenging environment. I won't get into a lot of details about that, but so what it eventually led me to was a very incredibly liberated, unique, and oftentimes self-destructive youth. Um, and then at age 25, and that's not to say that I didn't accomplish a lot either during that time in my youth. I was quote unquote successful in a lot of, I was very successful actually, compared to the median at the time. By age 25, because there was a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with, and uh, you know, same old story. We haven't dealt with our traumas, and we're victims to what's going on in the world. I manifested myself a tumor in my lower back, in between my lower lumbar and my sacrum. It's about the size of a softball, and was pressing down on my sciatic nerve.
Wow.
And when I went in and got diagnosed, um, I walked out of there and I had a few words with God. And pretty much decided to rob a bank, steal a Ferrari, get a couple of 9mm, and go out like Dillinger, crossing the Mexican border, and just,
Wow.
yeah, seriously, that was my, honest to God, that was my very real decision that I made in that moment. But luckily, I had some good friends around me, and one of them said, "Hey, before you do that,
Yeah.
why don't you consider easing off some of the alcohol and the terrible food and staring in front of the TV and the 9 million other bad habits that you got, and try to cleanse yourself out of it and take some ownership for your life." So I decided to go down that path, give it a couple of weeks, and that led me to an NDE, which pop. I saw a couple of the podcasts that you've done with folks, in relationship to NDEs. But yeah, so that was my wake up call, literally a wake up call. It woke me up to a completely different person overnight, and it was very challenging for me to deal with this new person, as well as a lot of the people around me were like, "Who in the heck is this guy?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
that's amazing. Well, I didn't realize you had an NDE. I knew that you had cured yourself from cancer, but so you're 29 years old. You're top of the world. you're
25.
25? Oh, I thought you were 29.
And
Okay.
I was at the bottom of the world, actually.
Oh,
I had been to some pretty neat high places, but at that moment I was at a bottom. Yeah.
well, and so you have these experiences where you go, oh, there's a lot more than what I know that's available to me, right?
Yeah, the primary thing that was made available to me that I wasn't aware of was love.
Oh, isn't
Yeah,
that cool?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been chasing and absorbing as much of that experience as I can ever since that time. Um, so that's, that experience in addition to um, what it led me to is why I'm where I'm at right now, and very excited about um, what we're going to be presenting with this new business we're launching next month. So
Okay, so before we came on, we were talking about expressed that I had taken Avatar, and I went all the way through to Wizards, and had a quite remarkable experience that changed my life. It was like a near death experience. It was a spiritually transformative experience, and it sounds like you went down a very similar road of realizing that there's a lot more here than this physical vessel. So do you want to share a little bit about that, about your experience once you, like, what courses? I know that, well, okay, so I know that you've been with Tony Robbins. You've studied with some of the greats,
yeah,
some of the internationally famous personal development people.
yes, yes.
And
In to nauseum. Yeah,
well, and I think that's part of it, is like the curiosity of, like, okay, I want to be fully human. I want to be fully present here. And how do I do it? Well,
mhm.
these guys seem to know what they're doing. I think you're following breadcrumbs, just like what most people would do, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So do you want to share a little bit about the shoulders you're standing
Sure,
on that
sure.
helped you build this
Yeah, thank you.
wonderful product that you've created?
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So, so first of all, like we are, well, maybe we can create a couple agreements here. We have these avatar bodies, each
Uh-huh.
one of us, and these avatar bodies are extremely high tech. We know 1 gram of DNA will hold up to 215 petabytes of information. In fact, DNA is probably going to be the primary storage modality of the very near future if it isn't already. That in water. But also, we've got a countless number of neural connections that can be created inside of our mind through neurogenesis and applied neuroplasticity. So between those two things and the fact that every one of our cells in the chromosomes can create a whole new body like that, we're really high tech. We're powerful. There's a lot to who we are. So that's really what got me in my spiritual awakening, was like, wow, wait a second, like, wow, we are far more than as you said, than this. So being diagnosed with cancer and decided to deal with this on my own, that was really, I went from being like, I don't care, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my life and get out of here, to like, wait a second, I think I can figure this out. I can figure this out. And luckily, I spent a lot of time. Um, my grandfather was a father figure to me in a lot of ways, and he always told me like, hey, if anything ever bad happens to me, or if they want to put me in a nursing home, come get me out. Don't leave me in there. Let me die alongside a trail like the Indians. So my grandfather didn't trust doctors or politicians or anything. So that was also strongly within me. And so I was like, all right, let me see if I can figure this stuff out. And even though I was a real knucklehead the day before, I still had stumbled upon a few things in my life that had like really turned my head. I remember sitting at home in my mother's living room as a young kid, seeing Deepak Chopra on Good Morning America, I think it was, and I was just like, as a young kid, like, wow, I have no idea what this guy's talking about, but uh, he believes it, and, it looks pretty cool, you know. So I remember having just the vaguest of connections to him, and coming home from like a night of drinking, and then, you know, passing out on my couch and having Tony Robbins infomercials going on at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, oh, now the truth comes out how you found Tony.
Well, I mean, this was pre-awakening, you know. I mean, but
Yeah.
at any rate, uh, so I, you know, dove towards those two guys first, and I got introduced to Carolyn Mace, Bruce Lipton, you know, the biology belief, Candace Pert's work with molecules of emotion. Um, you know, so what does it come down to? You know and I were talking about landmark education and avatar, and you know, landmark comes from est. Est was pretty strong, masculine based type of training, you know, to help us wake up and figure out that we're living in language and we're meaning making machines. So what was Deepak saying? Deepak's like, it's the mind and body talking to itself, you know. And then he would say, like, you know, you're not in your mind is not in your body, your body's in your mind. And it's like, wow. So we got these amazing avatar bodies, but we have these individual, super high tech, totally underutilized avatar bodies right now that are separate, but we're sharing one mind. And, you know, we live in language. So, you know, basically language defines our consciousness, the language of our thoughts, language of our emotions, language, of course, our verbal language, facial expressions, tonality, etc., etc. So as I was studying Tony and Deepak and like, how do I put these pieces together? How to make them work for me? I realized that, okay, so, you know, I got to get my body to talk differently to itself. I got to create a healing response. But geez Louise, you know, like if I sit there and do all of these exercises I'm asked to do in every one of the 49 books that Deepak's got, I mean, there's not enough time in the day. I think it's probably like 90 something books by now. But the same thing with Tony Robbins. It's a ton of material, but how do I have time to like do all this stuff?
Right.
Like, give me a break. So, and I like the concept that landmark education has. I really do. You know, I remember one of the seminar leaders one time, some old scraggly mean dude. He busted out in like a Frank Sinatra song to this woman's just standing there like, it's all about me. Who cares about you? Start singing. But, you know, all of this stuff together, I was like, wow, here's what I want to do. I want to invent a new language. I want to take what Tony Robbins is teaching about neural associative conditioning, because obviously we have to create a new association to some aspect of our past or potential future if we're going to be the vibrational match to attract it or let go of it. You know, we're holding on to that trauma because of an electromagnetic or auric or whatever you want to call it, the vibration of our, you know, the cells in our body, which is measurable and real. So how do we create those associations quickly? So I said, okay, I'm also going to take Tony's work around, you know, creating anchors. Oh, create a new language. Let me have this language being coded into the world around me, so I have limitless anchors outside of me, and then I can stack into these anchors whatever I want. So that's what I did to, you know, in addition to some very specific breathing exercises that stimulate the lymphatic system and pump out a lot of toxicity, and a lot of other cleansing tools and strategies that I implemented into my life. Meditation, of course, Vipassana is huge for me, huge. So yeah, calming the mind, cleaning the body, and then literally, and I mean literally, consciously and competently rewiring my own neural network by creating, firing, and wiring a new language that I saw in external anchors. So yeah, so I can say that, you know, everybody else out there who I've learned from, I've been able to take their work and encode it into my external environment. So when I leave a program, like I just did Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza last month, just to go out and see what they're doing, because it's been over a decade since I've even read a book on anything in human development. You know, if it wasn't for Jason, I wouldn't be on this podcast. He's the one who said, you need to get out of retirement and come back, introduce your work now. People are ready for it. So, yeah. So we have a science called gematria. So all of our original languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, Sanskrit, Mayan, Egyptian, they all had a coded aspect to them. And because of this coding, if we look at how the brain is wired, we don't normally associate, well, so let me back up a little bit. With gematria, if you're reading the Torah or the Kabbalah and you understand gematria and the meanings, which are, you probably have to be on the inside to know probably some of the deeper meanings to these things. But there's literally coded language that you can read through the numbers, because the numbers have a phonetic value. That's why there's no vowels like in Hebrew, so forth. They can transition back and forth. Well, luckily, the English language can fit into the first 10 digits of our numeric code. And, you know, one of the fascinating things about, you know, like what Greg Braden teaches or Landmark Education teaches or Tony Robbins or anything, it's all language.
Right.
We're living in a self-referring universe. And if we can interrupt our pattern with a better story, interrupt our pattern with an emotional alchemic anchor, where you can constantly be practicing emotional alchemy with yourself. It's really liberating and wow. If I want to have a conversation with the universe, if I believe that if I create a language where I can communicate with the universe,
perfect.
And all of a sudden I'm getting messages in English, you know, I just decode the cipher. And that's neural associative conditioning in action. Because we can link it to, you know, once we understand timeline therapy, which we build into our programs, then we can create a new timeline, which is that fourth dimensional aspect of ourselves. And as we create this new timeline, we're referencing from behind that sixth dimensional aspect of ourselves, which is the architect that's attempting to, you know, create this reality with the fifth dimensional aspect of our awareness. And then that fourth dimensional aspect of being in time, and then the third dimensional aspect, which is our avatar. So there's a lot that can be encoded into, if we're going to create a new language, why not create a one that's based on, you know, reality as it is, instead of the one that we pretended that it is.
Well, I always say we're in our own hologram, and I'm looking forward to the time where holograms can intertwine and co-create together, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But okay, so when the information that you're doing, is this a training program for people that are beginners or more spiritually on the road? They may have already taken Landmark, which I cried the whole weekend. I just couldn't do it. Oh,
I'm sorry.
they made me I wrote a letter to my dead father, and oh, it was horrible. It was not for me. But Avatar was. Avatar by Harry Palmer. So if anybody knows about that. But I was aware that, hey, I'm creating all this and I want to create something that, and I also was psychic and intuitive, so I knew I experienced more than just this physical world anyway. So what you just referred to was more neuroscience and parasympathetic system. You know, you're basically going to the left brain person. Is your work to help that left brain person put all the pieces of the puzzle together and then get to their heart? Or are you looking, is your work for the people already in their heart?
Well, I'd say it's it's definitely for both, because I'm explaining it from a left brain perspective.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even from the first part of the course, it's like we need to open up to that part of us, that sixth dimensional part that says, you're here to live this amazing, incredible, epic story, a messianic voyage, your hero's journey.
Right.
And it's, through awakening that conversation with yourself in that's the story we begin to put into this language to feed back, because we have to fight for our minds right now. We have so much competition with all the AI driven algorithms and the narratives that are coming at us and the political agendas and the warmongers and all of this stuff. If we're not, it's like the caterpillar, when it dies, it's got this imaginal cell that's flowing through it. It's got the blueprint of the butterfly inside.
Perfect.
And its own immune system, the resistant, comes at it to beat it down. So luckily, what's left is the raw materials and the blueprint. So that's, the butterfly emerges. So with us right now, we have that blueprint of that butterfly within us. But inside of the caterpillar, that's a contained space where it can keep multiplying and get more and more of those imaginal cells to go. In our space right now, we are being overrun, where our dreams are being overrun by all of the social engineering and programming that I believe is part of our spiritual path, because this is, again, that fifth dimensional and sixth dimensional aspect of ourself. They'll use the dark in order to be like, hey, if the light's not coming out on its own, then we're going to throw some dark in there
Right.
to get it moving.
Right.
And so I don't want to think like something's happening to us other than us saying like, hey, you can either evolve into the mechanical butterfly like AI and singularity and converge with all these other massive technologies that are coming on right now, or you can like step into the amazing people and opportunity that you are right now to experience this reality in a way that's like, how good can I stand this? How amazing can I make my life?
So where does fear fit in with this? Because I believe very strongly in what you're saying, and I also help people that are caterpillars, and they're just there. Can I be that future me that my soul mission? Can I really do that? Because the social construct is, if you're different, you're in jeopardy. If you get seen, there's a possible threat to being seen. So how do you create trust for the adventure?
Okay, so you're asking me like, how do you trust the universe? Is that what
Yes,
you're saying? Okay,
exactly.
how do you trust the universe? Okay, well, so first of all, those are called rules. Those are if-then statements. If I do this, then I'm going to feel this way, right?
Uh-huh.
Which when we have, and more all the time, we're being programmed with hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of rules that we're being programmed with right now that limit our behavior and restrict our expression and create aspects of ourselves to now become polarized with people or aspects of our life that we used to be connected to in the past. So we're being programmed with these if-then statements all the time. If you march for this, then you're that. If you like this guy, then you're this. So that's part of this homogenized, pasteurized world that we live in. Now, you can rewrite that rule, no problem, because that rule's got an emotion on each side of it. Okay, it's like, if I do this, I'm going to feel great. If I don't do this, then I'm going to feel terrible, right? Or the opposite. If I do this, I'm going to feel terrible. And if I don't do this, then I'm going to feel great, or at least safe. So, all of these fears, going back to false evidence appearing real, or Marcus Aurelius's, the obstacle is the way.
Right.
It's what it is. Or in Vipassana, like, you've got to be able to sit with these challenges that you have and be equanimous, be aware of them, notice the sensations. But if you're reacting to these sensations and creating more fear, then you're just programming the future to be rippling back more opportunities to be fearful. So again, that's why I love these external anchors, because they're constantly interrupting my pattern, and I can program new rules into them, no sweat. Every single type of transformational technology out there can be feeding back to us and neural associating new emotional responses to past traumas, future dreams. Because certainly, if we're not moving towards our dreams, and we associate, what do we associate? We associate more pleasure to not moving and more pain to moving. So we got to take a look at that and rewrite that script. and have that create a new pattern for it. And just keep asking ourselves, how good can I stand it? How good can this story get? Um, and trusting that, yeah, for sure, there's an aspect of like, we look at Jungian psychology, the dark night of the soul. Most times when people on their hero's journey, it's that caterpillar dying. There's this resistance, this battle that takes place inside that says, but Leo, you don't want to stop being who you're being. You don't want to lose all of that. You don't want to risk all of that. Who knows if you're going to get this or not? Well, really, the journey is the reward. So, and who we become in the process.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
And I apologize for rambling so much, but the right now in human history, right now where we're at in this timeline in human history, we're at a crossroads. We could be extinct within, if AI goes the wrong way, or any number of things right now. We're not very bright. We're not very bright. So there's no reason in the world not to be like, you know what, I'm throwing my hat over the wall and I'm going to go for my dreams, because the future is uncertain, other than the uncertainty that we put on it. If we want some certainty in our life, we can at least say, gosh dang it, I am going to go for the things that make me feel the best. And if I can quickly associate that I don't really want those things, I want these feelings.
Right.
If I can become good at becoming that emotional alchemist and use a pattern, consistent patterns being interrupted with the life of my dreams, my purpose, my path, my hero's journey, and so forth. If I keep my focus on that, it's going to expand. It just will. If I ask the right questions, if I create the right agreements, if I'm flexible in my approach, if I take consistent action, even if it's a little bit a day, that one tiny degree will change your life. So we know how to program the mind, and we know that the mind, the internal neural networks, that's what allows for us to experience external reality. Right. So as we rewrite that script inside, the blueprint changes inside, then the schematic and the architecture changes outside. It's simple. It's really simple. We only have 6,000 thoughts a day. People think we have 60,000. That's old information. We have about 6,200 on average. It's only 250 an hour. It's only 4 per minute. Getting good at managing those, keeping your focus and your intention and your attention, staying in that place of unconditional love, equanimity, but other feelings that you may want to associate to things too, but definitely those two is important. So we've got all this information. Let's implement it. We should move from the information age to the implementation age. Let's put all these things into practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does the journey go from the head to the heart? Because that's the other part of this, is that we're in this opportunity right now to choose. We really do get to choose, and we can be a victim and stay in the matrix. But you're saying I am the matrix, which I'm calling that my hologram. That's my little world, my little play. And I get a starring role.
Yeah.
But I guess I just am asking the journey from here to here, because I think as a species of humans, if we're going to evolve and we're eventually going to be telepathic, we can't stay here. We have to use this brain.
Yeah. So I think we are telepathic right now.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. The mirror neurons inside of my head, when I'm with my wife and we're, in the same wavelength, we do a lot of brain coherence breathing too, which I'm not sure if your listeners are aware, but if you're under 6 feet tall, like, let me just throw this out there real quickly. In 1939, there was like the average human was breathing about 4.9 breaths per minute. And in 2022, it's about 17 breaths per minute. And that sends a super fast message to the brain being like, hey, this person's put your fear and freaked out response. So by slowing breathing down, they found out that everything that can be measured in the lab electrically by breathing about 5 breaths per minute brings your brain and your heart into coherence. So, but how do you get your this powerful intellect here to be working with heart? Well, I think it's impossible not to be if your mission is contribution. if you see yourself as connected to everything, um, you know, the whole idea of, like T.S. Eliot's poem, when we finally reach our destination, um, we'll see it as if with new eyes, but also recognize it as a place we started from. Um, I think it's impossible to have that heart outside of that loop when we're on that journey of self-referral, that journey of, going back to where we came from. Um, Especially if we're focused on, you know, well, like even let's say you're a struggling, whatever, maybe a divorced man or a single mother, or maybe just a kid who doesn't feel like he connects to his folks super well. Um, you know, the idea of being able to know that our life has a reason, that if we can be happy with ourselves,
Yeah.
if we can love ourselves, love our purpose, and we can be compassionate and empathetic. That's why telepathy, that's why we have the so-called unconscious mind. It's not really unconscious. It's just that we're not tapped into that type of sensitivity at the moment as often as we probably could be. So as we become more sensitive and gentle with ourselves, and um, continue to look for ways to be contributing, um, and again, a lot of my thinking is from cause, not effect. So I believe a big part of the challenge right now is the cause is that we see ourselves as separate.
Right.
And sometimes it makes it difficult for me to talk to people in a way in which they really understand where I'm coming from, because since that NDE, it's been very difficult for me to see myself as anything other than connected to everybody around me. So being kind of a sigma male, which has the attributes of alpha, but also it's kind of a lone wolf. Um, for me to be coming back into the public and explaining like, hey, through my intellect, I was able to create these emotional responses and cure my self of a lot, actually, more than just cancer, lots of different traumas and so forth, and things that I created for myself to learn from in my life. Um, but yeah, so if we're really stressed out, if we are that single mother or the divorced father who just feels devastated if something lost his kids, um, just those simple things of like bringing our what's common sense stuff, like find the relaxation response, get into that breathing pattern that will calm your mind down, and then give yourself permission to say, if you are spiritually aware, if you know this stuff, give yourself permission to say, hey, things may be really bad right now, but every single really bad is always followed by a good. I need to interrupt my pattern and run towards the light. If I keep focusing on the bad, I'm going to keep attracting the bad. So um, I think it's pretty difficult to be on this path and not be in the heart personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I I see that the opportunity is to take your class and learn, because you've actually combined and you've done all the hard work of taking the classes, reading the books, going to the workshops, and put things together that that work. They're transformational, the tools that work. Um, what is the formula for that? Is it like they say 21 days for a new habit? Is there some formula that you've come up with that you find works for helping people grow?
No, I would never say anything like that. Um, so I can give you some specific numbers though. So we got 8 billion people on the planet. Each one of us has about 6,000 thoughts a day. That's 48 trillion thoughts that we have as a global collective daily.
Right.
And every day we're sending those 48 trillion thoughts out into the field, and that's creating tomorrow. So I think people with a spiritual mindset can say, okay, that's true. That's what we're doing. So, a guy like me comes along and says, well, what about 100th monkey and critical mass and tipping point, things like this? Like, let's come up with a number. Like, how many of those thoughts we need to change on the planet in order to create a new global consciousness? Who's down for that? Anybody want to create a new global consciousness where we're not killing each other and killing our host? So, I think uh, if there's a formula, it would be like, let's Let's look at the facts, people. We got all this information. Let's implement it. I know I got about 40 trillion thinking and feeling cells inside of my body. If I go to reach for this glass of water, have a drink, I know that's because these 40 trillion cells inside of my body are feeling dehydrated, and collectively they've made me have one of my 6,000 thoughts think about getting a drink of water. So how do I get to 20% of them? How long does it take for the skin to replace itself? How long does it take for the brain cells that do replace themselves to replace themselves? How long does it take for the cells in my heart to replace themselves? How frequently would I have to be interrupting my pattern with this new story and these new beautiful emotions until we take the work of Candace Pert, this cell dies and is born with the receptor sites that wants those new emotions, and I can have a new heart in, I think they say it's 3 months. Most cells in the heart are replaced. Maybe 6 months. I don't remember. I should check this out though. But at any rate, there's never a 21-day thing. There's very clear mathematics to how our personal individual consciousness is created, how it can be changed. It's a very clear path, very clear. We know we have to reach that critical mass of changing those thinking, feeling cells.
So the reason why I ask that is that there's a lot of hypnotherapy systems that say, listen to this tape or not tape, but recording. Listen to this
I know what you're talking about.
for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's planting a seed in your system so that you're looking for that, so that you're looking for a different reality. And it almost feels like that you can wake up each morning and choose your avatar, choose almost like you wake up and you can be brand new. Like you did after your near-death experience. I mean, that's like flipping the page to a totally different reality, right?
Yeah, that's epigenetics. An instant new belief system just shot through my body,
right,
and created a new expectation for my cells. We can also look at like Dr. Ellen Langer's work from Harvard Medical School, where she took all these people that were over 100 years old and put them into an environment that reminded them of them when they were in their 20s. Well, within a few months, they had their visual thresholds, hearing thresholds have improved. Their skin elasticity was tighter. Their bone density got more dense. Literally, the growth hormone levels, the stem cell factors, all of these things. Why? Because it's that epigenetics again. So again, that's why I come back to having these external anchors that are constantly reminding us of the changes that we want to create, because we're thinking we're living in an intelligence. We are an intelligence. The two want to communicate in a way that promotes growth,
right. Okay, so next question is, when you work with people and you share your system, do you find that it's faster route one-on-one or in group?
Well, always the bigger the group, the faster the transformation is going to take place.
And why is that? Is that because more aspects are revealed?
Well, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going to tell one person, but I'll tell 1,000?
No. No, we're all one. And it's uncanny that someone else in the room will ask a question that I was thinking that I didn't have the guts to ask.
Yes.
But it's quite possible that the group environment has more opportunities to enlighten you on your change, on the need for change, or the potential for change.
Yeah. Well, when you're right. Whenever we're in that group environment, our heart's going to be like emitting, time backwards, emitting out there. This probability is going to amplify in the form of some scraggly old man who's going to say something that's going to remind you of like, oh my God, that's totally me, And that's part of this co-creative attraction, So that's it. That's a big piece for sure. And that's that's the. Again, like going back to the sankharas of, Buddhism, when these things amplify in our lives, how we deal with them is going to be how the future is going to be.
Right.
And those opportunities are, the challenges in our life. That's that 6th dimensional side of us saying like, I'm going to keep throwing this crap in your way unless you start doing what you're supposed to do.
Well, if everything's here is for us, it isn't crap.
Right.
it's an
Right.
opportunity to evolve. So
Man.
that's the thing. Because well, see, everything in hindsight, when you go through your life and you say, well, in hindsight, that was good, but it hurt like hell,
Yes.
or whatever. But what if you right away said, okay, this isn't good. What's it helping me with? And what's the lesson here while it's happening? So you get a tax bill, and all of a sudden, oh no, and it's like, okay, how do you, if everything's a workaround here, if everything could be a workaround to the positive.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes, for sure. Well, I mean, we have our spiritual contracts, right? Right? I mean, for sure. Like, there's no accidents in any of this stuff. Up there, we're like, yo, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to do this to you when we get down there, and it's like, I love you. That's why we're here. It's like, okay, okay, I'll forgive you. It's like, please, dude, don't forget.
But you do
you know,
forget. You do
you
forget
do.
until you don't. And
Yes.
that, well, okay. So the reason I'm asking it this way is that I really want to pull out from you the benefit of the I am the Matrix program, because it is in group. It is a system that gives you a toolkit
Hmm.
for you to actually get back in control of your development with guidance, right?
Well, here's the thing: is that I want to get out of being in front of this thing as soon as possible. This is a technology that's supposed to be out in the world, and it's just as simple as that. And it's not being designed where they need to like follow anybody at all. Once you understand the system, you're going to be liberated beyond your wildest dreams. Again, we're surrounded by hundreds of millions of socially engineered, very extremely sophisticated external anchors that are, have algorithms of modalities of motivation and emotional responses and precognitive commitments and all these things built into them. I know I'm sounding like I'm coming from my head, but I'm coming from my heart because I want to let people know, like, yo, you have to interrupt that stuff. You got to interrupt that stuff with the reason you're here. We have to
Right.
fight to get our minds back, fight to get our hearts back, fight to get our lives back, fight to get our children away from these phones and these devices and learn how to put their hands in the dirt and grow some food and realize the simple things is where it's at. Like design your life so that whatever it is that moves you. For me, it's being in nature. For me, it's being with my wife. For me, it's being with my children. For me, it's being with my community. I wake up in the morning about between 3 and 4 generally, because I want to get stuff done. But by 6 a.m., I'm at the gym with my friends, and by 7 a.m., I'm at the beach with my friends surfing, and by 8 a.m., I'm sitting around having tea with a community people from all over the world, and I'm in the 1%. You know, I'm in the 1%. I just the feelings. That's what I want. But it took me a while to design my life in a way where it's like, okay, do I want to be living in the United States? Would I rather be living in the Caribbean? Caribbean. Okay. Would you rather be living where it rains all the time in Seattle or where it's sunny all the time? Sunny all the time. So, like, do you want to live in the city or do you want to live on the beach? On the beach. Okay. So rewrite the script, interrupt your pattern, ask different questions, create these agreements. So all of this is built into that language. And the 6,000 thoughts we have each day, how often are we, like clearly seeing an image of where I see myself in a year and the feelings I want to have and the contributions I want to be making? How often? So that means that we're like coasting along and stuff. But what happens if we really organize this intelligence? What happens if we optimize our minds? I
Right.
mean, if we like say, okay, cool, I want to get on fire. Like, how good can my life get? I want to challenge myself. How much can I contribute? How much does the world need it? Like,
Oh,
whoa,
perfect.
whoa, you know?
Yay!
Yeah,
You're singing a nice song for sure. Well,
yeah.
so when you look at all of this, again, it's trusting, but it's having the our self-talk is keeping us small, is keeping us safe.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned about, and I don't know if this came through with your near death experience, we'll have to have another conversation about that. But the near death experiencers, I just got to be at the IONS conference and met just the heart. You walk in the door and it was like, I'm home. It just
Mm.
was 300 150 people that have had experience. So they live there. And what over and over and over again, what they said was that there's no judgment. You're judging you. That when there is no man sitting up on with a white beard sitting up on a big chair going, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. That none of those constructs are true. You are judging you. Your life review, you are judging you. So what if you shut up the little devil, that you have an angel and a devil on each shoulder, and what if you shut the one up that's that's negative? What if you just said, okay, I'm going to go for it, and then took the I Am the Matrix class, learn the tools so that you could cement the information into your awareness and have a toolkit to live from that exceptional potential self that's the angel could go for it, do it, you can do it. So I mean, right now most people have these two beings on each shoulder talking to each other, and the chaos out here, and then the lack of being able to make decisions because of the fight of these guys is just over the top. And everything is triggering that, everything out there, if you still have it running, it's like it's on accelerated um, passion. So could
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about how you get rid of these guys? Or oh,
Sure.
cool, thank
So
you.
it's I think that's a huge and not spoken about enough aspect of our journey towards wholeness or enlightenment is integrating the dark and the light and the masculine and the feminine and the poles of opposites. Understanding that that's what we are. That's that second dimensional aspect of us. The second dimensional is where that polarity exists, and understanding that that's there to give us contrast. That's why we can experience love, is because we know the opposite of it. So we're talking about shutting that other man up, but I don't really look at it like shutting that guy up so much as interrupting him. Just interrupting him more frequently. Uh, and after a while, once you begin to create this new fabric inside of yourself, you won't need these external anchors anymore because you'll have a new neural network. It's just understanding that it's a numbers game. It really is a numbers game. We have a certain number of thoughts a day. There's a certain number of time a day that we have those thoughts. And most of our thoughts come from our past. So the idea of interrupting those past thoughts, those past precognitive commitments to the way the world is and how people treat me and how they see me, and the preconditioned emotional responses to all of those precognitive commitments, and the rules that we create that make it difficult to succeed and really easy to fail. All of that stuff, that can be rewritten. And it's just a matter of interrupting those patterns and setting it up so you're like, hey, I'm taking control over the direction of my thoughts and the quality of my emotions. And I'm going to start rewriting the script. And that's what I see the liberation from these external anchors is in learning this new language. It's actually not even a new language. It's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Now we're just taking that same general idea that, again, has been used by cultists and mystics and elitists and so forth for who knows how long, and saying we're going to take our power back and use the same type of technology for ourselves.
Well, don't you think a lot of it, the reason why it's hasn't been adapted is it's so simple? It's it seems like it's got to be more complicated. The only complicated thing is you loving yourself enough to choose it.
To choose what?
To choose the change, to go through whatever your dark night is, whatever your shame, blame, victim, whatever that story that you've created that was part of your growth that you picked before you embodied, for you to go through all of that and not be afraid, because it may hurt, but it only hurt for a little while, and what you resist persists.
Yeah.
So pushing through it is where all the good stuff is, right?
Well, that's why we have so many past lives. It's like, nope, I ain't doing it this time. And your soul's like, dude, come on. You're right, though. I mean, we've got to go through the eye of the storm and have that dark night of the soul and realize, like, hey, certainly there's part of my identity that I really care for. It's been with me forever. It's been with me forever.
Right.
And am I going to lose this in order to get that? Or can I learn to integrate again that masculine and feminine, that polarity, and not saying you're this part of me I don't want to hear from anymore. It's like, hey, let me let go. Thank you so much for these lessons that you've taught me. Thank you for being the spiritual gymnastics and gym and weights that I've been carrying around to help me become as spiritually strong as I am, so I can enter the valley of darkness and reach out to these other people without judgment and with love and equanimity and understanding and empathy and realize, like, brother, sister, I've been there. It's okay. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Guess what? There's no personal problems. We all have the same problems. We just don't talk about it.
Right. That's what I was amazed in Avatar, that they would have wizards. I think there were over 500 people, and they had these round tables with translators, with people having headsets, and
Oh,
everyone
oh,
had the same. The human being all has the same stuff. We say it's cultural, we say this or that, but it's not. It's fear. It's fear or love. Basically, Tony Robbins had that part very right.
yeah. Do you know Bernice Tom?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I remember now where Avatar comes from for me. When I had my NDE, I was living in San Diego.
Okay.
Okay? And I sold my business that I had down there, and I said, I'm going to just invest me into me. I ended up moving into an Aikido monastery.
Oh wow.
It was run by a sensei by the name of Bernice Tom, and she was doing the Avatar program. That's how I remember this.
It's wonderful. It wasn't as harsh as Landmark, but I benefited tremendously. But it's very expensive, and But I mean, I benefited so much that I would recommend it to somebody else, even if it is expensive, to do it because of what I benefited. But now you've got this program that's probably much more updated and easy access, that could do the same thing as an expensive program like Avatar,
Yeah.
and makes it available to millions of people. It's online. You want to talk a little bit about the idea of the because you have a network part of your infrastructure, as well as a class.
Yeah. So I guess to back up a little bit is that uh, we are translating this technology into the top 25 languages on the
Wow.
planet. We've already started translating into a number of them, and so we're going to be looking for coaches that speak these languages really, really well. People who are translating them aren't necessarily going to be the coaches, but to get the videos in those languages and so forth is fairly easy. So we're already moving forward with
Yeah,
that.
cool.
I'm certain that this is a disruptive technology that we're introducing. I'm 100% clear on that. That's why that's why I went and saw Joe Dispenza in Great Britain. I'm going to go see Bruce Lipton in a few weeks. I'm just going in and checking in, see what people are doing, and making sure, like, yeah, we're way ahead of the curve right now. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that people value being human beings. They value having their emotions. They value not being, programmed by outside sources. They would like to take more charge of their own programming and create their own cultural experience instead of becoming, again, like these homogenized boxes of generic whatever that are just stacked in suburbs. Um, we've got a lot on the line right now, in my opinion. So yeah, so in the past, when I was beta testing this work across the United States and Canada, we'd sell these programs. I try to sell programs for very inexpensive because I wanted to get the work out there more than anything, and people wouldn't buy it. When I raised the price, people started buying, and the internet wasn't available at that time for online classes. And it's really cool right now that actually the prices of things have came down. I think like Tony Robbins programs are less expensive now than they were 15 years ago.
Right.
Pretty sure. So it's nice because we can offer these online forums and have people go through these programs on their own. at home, but we can also have live events. So it'd be incredible. I mean, we're not going to be in a conference room, that's for sure. But at any rate, it's nice because there's also we can do payment plans if people needed to do. We can give them away if people need it. I want to get this in the hands of a lot of like right now. I'm actively working on getting this translated into Spanish into a children's program for young boys and girls where I live here in the north end of the Dominican Republic. Actively working on that now, because it's a numbers game. We have to train people that, wait a second, you can actually program those thoughts that you have each day. The ones that you don't like, just reprogram ones you do like, and those ones will atrophy. They'll be there if you want them. You can go look for them if you need to in the future or whatever. But
no, usually they don't come up at all. I mean, it's almost like the defrag. it like comes out and then something else overwrites where that space was, and it's gone. It's gone. Yay. So remind me, because I'd love to help you get some of this out. I have a friend, Eric Knaus, who does a mindfulness class. He's in Costa Rica, I think.
Okay.
And he launched his program first in Spanish.
Okay.
So it might be a good connection for you. And he's done a lot with heart math.
Okay, cool.
A lot with heart math. Yeah, great guy. So again, we're at a tipping point of our human construct where we can choose to co-create a different reality that is peaceful, that is loving, that does support 7 generations, which is what I'm calling conscious. That's why I do conscious business zone. I'm adamant. I really think the servant leaders that are running all these businesses, they need resources like you that because they're in service to their clients and their employees. But who's in service to them? Who's fortifying their being and who's really making a difference so that they have all the tools we're in huge change. There's huge amount of fear about change right now. And then there's some of us that are like, yay.
Yeah. It might actually be, I think all the pieces are falling into place because a lot of folks are seeing like, wow, things are changing fast, but they don't like the way it's changing.
Right.
So because we're more motivated by fear than pleasure, unfortunately, at the moment, I think that can change because we can rewire ourselves and just skip the limbic system, skip the reptilian brain a little bit, jump and create some other pathways. But I think we might be coming to a spot where people are actually going to embrace, like, okay, if I got to choose between maybe life's great or for sure it's going to suck, I'm going to go for maybe life would be great.
Well, the thing is that we're creating things every day. This is an alchemic universe, and we forgot. We just forgot.
We're remembering. We're remembering.
Yes, and you're helping us remember. Thank you so much. Well, I look forward. I look forward to taking the rest of your class. I got in the back end and I got to take part of it, but I really look forward to it because I know that there's a huge need for people to have easy access to a new way to think and create their world. And everyone wants peace. You see that what's happening in the world right now. We could have escalated the current war to a world war, and no one wants it. So yeah, I mean, we're waking up. We're waking up.
Yeah. We got to give ourselves permission to collectively come together and heal the oceans by protecting.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. And the other thing is that we're so loved. Love is the field of energy that we live in. We forgot that we can use that as a powerful co-creation to a highest level. Let your imagination go how wonderful your life can be. Leo's living the life. He imagined it and then he brought it in. So I know we're going to have more conversations because I have a gazillion more questions. So, but everyone, please share this and please go to Leo, share with everybody the best way for them to reach you and to find out more about your course.
Sure. Well, you can watch this podcast. You can also go to iamthematrix.com. There's quite a bit of information there. I would recommend watching the homepage video, which will cover quite a bit of what we talked about today, and as well as our mission, which is on the mission page, because our purpose really is to reach that critical mass of 20% of the global population, and automatically the rest will have a domino effect. So it's not going to be like just me doing it. There's a whole bunch of us light workers out there, but I'm joining that force and saying, yeah, I'm down with what these guys are down with. So
yeah. Well, the thing is that it doesn't matter how you enter into this knowing. It just matters that you participate, because once you see the reality of this matrix, and that you are co-creating with it, you can choose to co-create a much better story, game, whatever you want to call it. Right. And
yeah,
thank you, Leo. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And I can't wait to keep learning from you. I just want to remind everyone we're so powerful. This is an opportunity to ignite the power that you are, to help as many people as possible wake up to their divinity at this time. This is the game I want to play with everyone.
yeah.
And Leo's got a big part. So thank you, Leo. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please share. Please share.